The Human Founder Podcast by Gali Bloch-Liran.
Hi, I'm Gali Bloch-Liran, and welcome to The Human Founder, the podcast where we speak about the mental aspects of the entrepreneurial journey. Entrepreneurs often describe the emotional roller coaster that is embedded in being an entrepreneur or investor, where you experience the lowest of lows when COVID hit and you had to fire employees that you love in a period you were not sure if your company would survive the crisis. And the highest of highs when achieving a successful first funding round after getting so many no's to get a yes and to realize you're actually now building a real company with a real serious and funding firm that believes in you. And it's from that place of uncertainty, the need to constantly self-manage ourselves, keep up our energy and be mentally resilient in order to deal with everything. Well, it's not easy. In each episode, I will be talking to entrepreneurs, investors, psychologists, being their sounding board, with the goal of creating a space for this less spoken about layer, which is the mental aspect accompanying the entrepreneurial journey. I will also share tips and tricks to help boost your focus, clarity, and mental resilience. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Noam Toister. Hi, Noam, and it's really, really great to have you here with me.
Hi, Gali. Thanks for having me here. It's great to be.
My pleasure. Before we dive into today's episode, make sure to follow the podcast in the app you're listening at. That way you'll keep the finger on the pulse and be updated right away with all the new episodes straight to your feed. Did you press follow? So let's dive in. So Noam, let's represent you. You are the co-founder and CEO of Travalier, formerly Bookaway Group. Travalier is a digital travel group which consists of 6 online transportation B2C brands. You founded a company in 2017 with Omer Chechmer and David Itzhaki. And since there, you've been through so many things. So we're going to dive deep into some of them. Actually, when we were chatting just before starting now to record, so I told you that I feel like everything that you say is like you describe the whole entrepreneurial journey just in the recent years from both of your startups, and we'll dive deep to some of the points. So your parents moved the kibbutz and actually moved to Jerusalem, and you were born there, and like having a childhood in Jerusalem, what do you feel that one thing you took from your childhood later on to your grown-up career in life?
So I don't think anything in my childhood really anticipated the path I took in the end. I think that my parents were both. I know that my parents were both teachers. We're not business owners or entrepreneurial in any way. And money and how to make more money was not something that we talked about at home. We're family that's just worked and try to live day to day. So I don't think that anticipated that a lot at all. Maybe the lack of it, the lack of that information kind of opened me to that world when I got to university, and kind of opened my eyes. I said, wow, there's so many things that I've never heard about, and people do.
And I think this will be a comment that we'll say at the end, but the beautiful thing in entrepreneurship is that there are so many ways to go together to do it. I mean, you can come from so many paths. There is no just one way, or to be born to just those parents, or those to learn those things in university, etc. There are so many paths that can bring you into this direction of being a founder of a startup. And maybe I want to jump with you to after the army, which you mentioned before when we had the chat, that many well-known and achievable founders actually came from your unit, but jumping later on to the USA, your sales first position. So tell us a little bit about it, and what actually you brought from there into the entrepreneurship role that you're in now.
From the sales.
Yeah.
So I went to work in sales in the USA, and I had no sales background,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of was a shock for me, that you can come to a certain person and convince him to do certain things
Mm-hmm.
that he would not have thought to do, and when he went into the store or whatever, and he's going to be happy about it because the negotiating and selling value and I guess perceived value or relative value to different people is something that is very, very, I guess, objective, right? Not objective, subjective,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a certain person might feel that an offer that you make for him is a great offer, and another person will tell you that's bullshit. How I can't believe that you sold this, and both people are happy, um, and and being able to actually produce value out of nothing
Mm-hmm.
is something that was really interesting for me, and I think it took me into the thinking of the psychology of how to sell, how to how to convince people to do things, why do people buy things, um, and maybe that kind of one thing that started my journey. And when I came back to Israel, my first and only job basically was being a salesperson in a camping store.
Mm-hmm.
I later managed that store, but that was my only job, and I came back to Israel to do that job because I had the experience of doing sales in the USA and thinking, wow, this is how you do it. And from that camping experience and travel experience, I guess that was sort of an evolution to what I do today. But that was experience that kind of made me into a person that realized that there are other ways to make money that are not get a job, work for someone, learn a profession, be a lawyer, be a doctor, learn some profession that people pay you to do, and find someone that'll hire you. There are different ways to kind of be successful and bring value to the world.
Yeah. I want to jump to the end for a second, and then we'll go back to earlier in time. Research showed that many of the founders are actually coming from families with money or financial background, or that are second generation for founders, and then they actually embrace this mindset and tools as children. But your story, which as a coach that work with CEOs, I always say that we have to win the success because we have to fulfill ourselves with the good things that happen, but then later on to continue and work, etc. But many of the founders, they don't know to pause and to look on the good things that happen because they run all the time. So I don't know to say what will be the success, in the future of the company, etc. But at this moment, and we'll get there in a second, there are many, many things to be proud of on what's going on the scale that happened, the companies that you bought, etc. But what I want to emphasize is not your background or the things that necessarily you did beforehand or the no's that you got when you wanted to apply to different kind of jobs, or even the personality or other things along your life in the defined way led you to be a founder of a startup, of a second startup that is succeeding. And I think that you didn't come from money, and you had to change your approach to it. And maybe this is also some of the uniqueness that you have during your story. So I think that one message that I want to take out and marker from this is that there is really no one good answer or right answer, and that entrepreneurship and founders and CEOs, so many things can happen along the way, so many backgrounds. And at the end, it's the ability of ourselves to look inside, to see our center, to question ourselves along the way, what's true, what's not true, what's fit, what is the right fit for me, what happens, what's not. And all the time to fine tune the things and to create our own path, to create our own journey in that manner. And that there is no one way that someone that wants to be an entrepreneur has to go, because it can happen from so many directions.
Yeah, definitely. It can develop from many, many directions. I think there are some common traits that you need to have to be able to pull through doing something like that. One thing is, from my perspective anyways, is being able to live in uncertainty.
Definitely.
If you need certainty about what's going to happen, you can't take it with the stress and even technically financially, a lot of people that need certainty, financial certainty, just can't be entrepreneurs. And you need resilience. You basically need to have a lot of kind of confidence and belief in yourself, and just say, I know what I'm doing and I don't care. But if you want to be a good entrepreneur, you probably need to understand that you might be wrong most of the time. So which is it's a kind of a disconnect because you have to be super confident, but if you're not aware of the fact that you're probably wrong, a lot of the times, then you're gonna fail. So it's kind of hard to understand both things at the same time.
Because it's like it's top down and it's bottom up, and it's two different disciplines that as a founder you need to embrace them both and to show the confidence. But maybe tomorrow or the day after you'll pivot or you'll change the story, and you'll have to be confident in the new thing as well, and how you find your center within all those changes.
But you need to question what you're doing all the time. You need to question whether you're doing the right thing, and be very agile about changing it very, very quickly, and be real to yourself, because a lot of people
authentic.
Like a lot of people face the reality in what they're doing and the numbers and how it works, and they just don't. They deny it, right? Saying, okay, the fact that this is not selling or nobody's using the product the way we thought, that just means the customers are stupid. That's not because
they're providing different explanations in order to avoid maybe.
Yeah, and I've been there. I've been there. I mean, we've been through a lot of in the first startup. We've done a lot of mistakes, and I can say that probably most of the big mistakes that I've done in the first startup, someone told me that I'm doing a mistake, right? And I told him, you just don't get it.
But you had to make your own mistake.
Yeah. So and pretty good like investors and CEOs told me that's not going to scale, or you're doing a mistake, and talk about the details. But I've done a lot of like things that were wrong as a first startup, and people told me that. And the other problem is that the next time you do it, people keep still telling you that you're doing a mistake, but then again, you have to say this time they're wrong or right. I mean, you have to filter the decisions.
And this is exactly the foundation or the thing of this uncertainty, that you don't know exactly, and you don't know if the decision that you take now is the right decision. But the most important thing is that if you made a mistake, and many of the time you will make mistakes, much of the time you'll make mistakes, just to fix it quickly.
Yeah,
to be agile about it.
To build internally kind of a framework of quick failure, I guess. People say that about product building. It's a kind of a cliche. Build fast, fail fast, iterate. But it's also true about the way
you manage
the entire journey, right?
Exactly.
So where are you going? Where you're navigating the business? How are you?
The people that are around you.
Yeah, what kind of investors you're talking about, but what partners you choose. It's something that you need to be very, very aware of, that, and be able to not break out of failures and just say, okay, we're going to do something different now.
I want to take you 30,000 feet about the two startups that you build, and to see the similarities or the differences, and to see how you were as a first-time founder and second-time founder. And during your MBA studies, you actually met two of your co-founders, one in the first startup and the other one in the second startup. And you said a nice thing. I'll leave it to you to say about the three of you. How were you, comparing to the class?
Yeah. So my first co-founder, my first company, was from my class in the MBA, and then the first founder in the second startup was also from that class, and we were all like the lower tier,
grade.
the lower grade in the class, the lowest grade in the class. We were like the bottom of the class, the three of us.
We weren't the best students, let's put it that way.
I think we were, because we because you
not grade wise.
Not grade-wise, because we kind of realized it doesn't really matter, because you just need to get through the grade and do something meaningful. Yeah, so we managed to get through the degree without too much effort. But we were the lowest in the class at it, and I think that I mean we all got to very significant places, I think, from that. So it doesn't mean much.
When I look at your journey, and I'll connect the dots, so as we spoke earlier, there were changes in the personas, in the co-founders, and there was a very quick scale in the second startup. So this is something that we'll talk about a little bit later. At the end, it's all about people. And it's about our co-founders and our spouses and the relationship with the investors and the relationship with our team and leadership and employees and customers, users, of course. You had to break up from your co-founders in the first startup, also in the second startup. What are the main learnings that you take from those situations as a founder who has been there, who has gone through those difficult times? What are the main learnings that you take from it about yourself?
I guess it's a hard question. I think that I need certain people. Certain people tend to have a good connection with me. Certain people don't, and I may need to be more kind of upfront and direct about it with partners, managers that work with me, and so on. Because I think in both situations, I started a journey with someone that on the personal level I had a good connection with, but on the professional level it wasn't a good fit. And today with my co-founders, we have a really good chemistry. But you kind of need to be aware of that in really, really early stages, and you need to be also aware that things change and companies develop, and people don't always develop at the same direction or pace that a company goes. So sometimes a company would scale really, really fast, and the person wouldn't scale at the same pace. Sometimes the company would go to a different direction that the person that started it wouldn't want to be there for different reasons. And you need to protect that scenario to begin with. So I was kind of lucky enough that we had, I guess, good founders agreements in both cases, and it was a drama, but it we managed to make it more or less clean. And it's a hard, these things happen, and you need to be aware that it's not always going to be rosy road in terms of partners.
You mentioned a few things that one of the things that I see a lot with teams I work with and with teams that I consult to is that actually one of the founders doesn't grow with the company as it's needed. Okay, he may be a very good fit for the early stages, but then later on it takes him too much time, or he doesn't understand the culture of the way it should actually follow later on to later stages. And also we need to make sure when we choose our co-founders in the beginning to try to ask the right questions, or to try to assess the skills and the personality traits that will be a good fit with us also for the long term, and not just for the 0 to 1. This is one thing to say. On the other hand, like just like you mentioned, that also separating from co-founders, one of the founders that we actually separated, you mentioned that when Aleph made a due diligence on you, they called him, right? And what did he say about the next startup?
So he said, I don't. They called a couple of people, but one of them said, I'll join whenever he wants. And as far as I know, the other one kind of said, we didn't get along, but that was early days, and we were young and we didn't know what we're doing. So, that was what it is.
One of the things that I always like to help the founders I work with to see is to ask them the question that now they are in a conversation with someone, how will this person react or say later on that he felt during the bad conversation or the difficult conversation? What will be his when he will try to reflect on the being that he had, the feelings that he had there, how we'll speak on the other person. And I think that the fact that even a few years later on, although you separated, and of course it's complex, etc., your ex co-founders could say good things on you and on the relationship and convey it in the professional manner. I think it says a lot, and I think it's very important for founders that listen to us now, because many of you are struggling whether to do it or not to do it, and what will be the trade-offs, and when is the right moment to break up from a co-founder or let him go or change the leadership team. There are so many considerations within it. So it's always complicated. It's always complex. But one of the main fears that they have is like, what will be the day after? How will the next day look like? And I think that manage ourselves from this fear instead of look at the fear in the eye and understand the consequences and then do what you need to do as a co-founder and as a CEO really helps later on when you want to scale up the company.
Yeah, I think that kind of perception is true not only to co-founders, also true to managers in the company and you know, leading people in the company. And sometimes people move on. Sometimes people need to move on because they're not the right fit anymore. And there's always a fear of what will happen if that person, doesn't matter what his job is, that has been here for so long. You know, what will people think? What will people say? And in most cases, we realized that the concerns that we had as partners or as managers or so on are things that are sometimes obvious to other stakeholders as well, whether they're different employees or peers. And a lot of times the reasons that certain people move on are not a mystery to anyone. And the fact that you're very hesitant to do these things just drags them along, and it's not healthy to any of the sides. So it happens. We've found it happens with managers. And you need to be aware also for yourself all the time. Right? Am I like the right person to do the job currently? Am I doing the right job, you know, considering where we are today? It's hard.
They're definitely complex. You closed the first company and you actually founding Bookaway, which later on grew to be Travalier. We'll speak about it. And you start a company and then Corona hit. Take us to this moment. What happens there?
So at that time, it was 2020, and we were already after the kind of A round, and we were 60 employees, and we were doing really great. We grew 3x year over year. Sales were growing, and then COVID hit, and we were a travel company, and our sales went down, crashed from 2 weeks. They crashed by 50%, and then 2 weeks later, it was 99% down. And it was it was really early on in COVID. Nobody really understood what's going on. But for us, it was clear that we don't have a market at the moment and we can't carry on. And we need to do some changes in order to survive. And
how do you feel in this moment that you understand it as a CEO of the company? What goes in your mind?
First of all, there's denial, right? Because at first, because you know, back then in March 2020, everybody said the virus will be gone by the summer because it doesn't last the heat or whatever, and so we said no, it'll be fine. And then you know we sat down with our investors, Aleph and our seed investors, and they told us, okay, what if let's say you're right, but what if it's not fine? Then you're going to close the company in 6 months because you're going to burn all your money. Because you don't have any income. And I said, okay, I see where you're getting at, and it was kind of clear at that point that we have to make changes because if this is a long-term event, which it you know it eventually was, then we wouldn't be able to last. So we ended up having to let go of almost half of the company, just in order to make sure that we have enough cash to pay salaries for the next 2 years.
So in that very night, you understand that you also need to take part from one of the co-founders, and you understand you need to let go of many people of your company, to fire them. How do you, as a founder, as a CEO, deal with this reality that within 24 hours, such an intensive and intense and emotionally intense, and you need to hold, you know, this ship, whatever is going to be with it. You need to deal with it yourself. You need to. You had a Purim party, you said, at the same night.
It was a very weird situation because we ended up telling our employees that we're going to have to fire half of them and that we didn't want to tell them. The word came out for some reason, and we had to kind of be transparent about it. And we had a Purim party that evening that we booked in advance, and we told everyone that we're going to go party now, and they said, yeah, you know, what's the difference anymore? And we went out and we partied with the partners of our employees, and people came up to me and said, so I heard you're going to fire my husband tomorrow. Said, maybe. We haven't decided. Yeah, maybe him, maybe not. And then we had to kind of make a really, really quick decision on who's staying and who's going. We didn't have enough time to really think about it deeply or ask around what people think, what do we need in the next few months. We just decided, okay, this one, we got to cut half the R&D. This is where we cut. We got to cut this and this, and that's it.
Was it one of the hardest, toughest points in your career as a CEO and a founder?
Yeah, it was very tough. And I'm thinking about it now, and I in retrospect, I mean, it wasn't one of the things that I can say I didn't have much control about, right? So I couldn't prevent it. But I felt so bad because we had to, so many people just had to find another job because of us, and they believe in our vision and they wanted to go with us all the way. And they were saying, guys, you're not going to stay. We can't pay you, and that's it. You got to find another job. And we had to, after the Purim party, everybody came to the office drunk and had to go into we call it kind of a shimua conversation. It's like you tell her, okay, you're staying, you're going, and it was so weird. Everybody was crying in the office, and because it was so bad, because we just felt like we're starting to scale up when we built our kind of DNA in the company. We had a culture. We had like a really kind of solid team at that point, we thought, and just all down the drain, basically.
When I always speak about the emotional roller coaster that we are feeling as founders and CEOs, and a few months earlier you couldn't see it coming, and then overnight you have to make this decision and let those people go, and you find yourself as a founder, as a CEO, dealing with all those stuff, and you don't even have the time to breathe it, to breathe it inside, to understand how do you feel about it, to make sure that you're taking into consideration all important decisions that you need to do, because sometimes you have to act so quick and you don't have the time to think it through to the deepest level that you can, or to create a strategy. And I think that people that choose to be founders from outside, yes, sometimes it looks very, very shining and bright and fun and so exciting, but no one tells you those very, very difficult moments that you, at the end, it's on your shoulders, and you need to deal with it, and you need to go to sleep with it, and you need to wake up in the morning and yeah, you had many success moments. Later on, we'll touch base on those success moments, but it doesn't erase those moments of very, very complex decisions and emotions that we need to feel it, and it's inherent part of the process and the journey.
Yeah, I think that there's kind of and I guess this is the point of this podcast, right? But there's kind of a lot of glorification of the founders and the startups, and how great it is, and how smart it is, and our people, and they went out and people threw money at them, and they built a huge company. But it's hard. It doesn't work like that. It's a lot of failures. It's a manic depressive roller coaster, and you wake up in the morning feeling you're on top of the world, and then you talk to someone and he tells you this is a stupid idea. What the hell are you doing? And you want to bury yourself, and you have to wake up and remind yourself that this is what you do, and this and you're confident, and then the next day you broke some record, you sold 1,000 tickets or whatever a day, and then you say this is amazing, and it's hard. It really is hard, and people count on you, and you go and you sell a story. You sell a story. Investors give you millions of dollars because you sold on them on a vision, on a story that you think you can deliver. And then you wake up in the morning and said, shit, they gave me so much money and now I have to do it. And employees come to you, to your company, because they believe in the vision. We have smart employees. They can go work for Facebook.
It's not just in the vision, it's also in you as the CEO, what you convey. And then you also sometimes disappoint them.
Yeah, they could have gone work for Google and then they went and worked for me. And then I fired them because it was COVID and I couldn't do anything about it. And it kind of it's hard.
And the reality changes all the time. Like there's no constant. It changes all the time. So then there's this point in time during this poem that it feels really bad, everything, and you let go a lot of precious people, and then from this, I asked you earlier, like what are some of the main values that you feel that are guidelines to your journey as a CEO and a founder? And you said the sense of urgency and the attitude that it can be done. And exactly that's what happened there, that the sense of urgency that now I need to balance the numbers and I need to save enough money for the future. And that's why I need to make those steps now. And on the other hand, it can be done. Okay, so a new day. I'm looking at the cap table, I'm looking at the balance sheet, I'm looking at the strategy. Okay, what are we going to do next? The market is there's no market at this moment. There's COVID. What are the new opportunities that I see from this situation? And then with what kind of strategy you're actually coming up with?
So in the beginning, it was kind of everybody thought it's going to be gone in 6 months. So we thought we're just going to invest in infrastructure, in improving the product, and so on, and then come back. And after 6 months, it was kind of clear that it is not. It's not coming back. It's a few years, and you can't keep maintaining a product and a company on with no customers.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to think about what are you going to do. And we looked around and we said, okay, so everybody's in the same kind of training, everybody's getting wet. And if we're on zero, then our competitors, which we in normal days we're battling with, they're probably also on zero. Maybe with something we could do about it. And then we started reaching out to different competitors.
I want to take you to this point of time. How this thought came to your mind? What made you go to this strategy or to examine it? If you remember.
I'm trying to remember. I think that it was an idea, and initially it came up as a stupid idea, and then we talked to some advisors and board members that we had that came from bigger companies, and they said, well, people do that. It can be done. Think about it. I don't remember. Told me this company did this and that. It was a crazy move. Nobody believed, but maybe you can do it also. Why wouldn't you be able to do it? And then we said. Okay, we started kind of negotiating, talking to different competitors, and we realized from conversations that technically these guys would want to sell to us.
Mm-hmm. And then you go to Eden from Aleph, Eden Shochat, who's one of your first investors and board member, and you suggest this idea, and what he tells you?
He said it's strategically very smart, but you're not going to be able to pull it off. Yeah, you're 30 people in Israel. You don't have any sales. This is going to be impossible. But he did say, by all means, give it a go. And
so the next step?
And the next step was really starting to meet, to have deeper conversations with these companies that are kind of they're competitors, but we call them kind of frenemies, right? Mm-hmm. Because we had some relationships with them in the past.
And competition,
and we started saying, look, if we do this, we can create a much bigger company. We can get out of COVID winners, and it's game over for everyone else. And if me and you merge, and at that point, it was a good suggestion to them because they didn't have anything going on the same as we did. And then we started going to.
So then you go to Michael.
Then I go to investors, and Michael is also a partner in Aleph, and Michael
Eisenberg.
Michael Eisenberg has a lot of contacts, and I start to basically harass Michael. Saying, Michael, I need you to intro me to this guy, and I need you to intro me to this guy. And at some point, he called me up. I don't remember how it actually went, and he said, "What are you up to?" Because last I checked, you don't have any sales. And I said, yeah, but this is the idea that we have, and you think we can buy these two competitors if we can get like 10, 15, $20 million. And I said, okay, that's interesting. And, what if you get $40 million? Like,
Ooh.
what can you buy with that? And I said, I can buy, the European competitor or the South American competitor as well. I said, okay, let's do it. And Michael,
He ignited this.
yeah, and Michael said, okay, I'm gonna, and this is, by the way, Aleph, and Aleph is they keep saying that they're equal partnership, and I didn't really realize, I'm not sure I realized what it means until that point. But it means that even though we were Eden's investment, Michael kind of went in under the what the hell? מתחת לאלונקה.
He joined forces.
He basically jumped in and started helping
to work
actively,
and help.
Actively work and help us. And he also joined the board at some point. And
I think you even mentioned that it was, you think, as far as you know, the first company ever that Michael and Eden?
I think we're the first and only company that Michael and Eden were both together on the board
at the same time.
At the same time, I think that a lot of people would have wanted to be a fly on the wall
during those board meetings, to see the conversations.
Yeah, they're both amazing investors, but they're so different people. One of them, very, very kind of visionary and high level and storytelling, and the other one very operational, very detail oriented. And
so you had the full picture. You had a full support system.
You had the full support system. We also had other board members, Elad Kushner at that point, who had a lot of experience in M&A. So he helped us kind of pull that off. And
so Michael says we're in, and you're starting to go to VCs, to ventures.
Yeah, starting to go to VCs and ventures and tell them the story. It is very, very hard because the middle of COVID.
And how much time this process of, thinking, strategizing it, starting to approach?
I think the first kind of conversation about it was around September, and I think we signed the first term sheet for M&A and investment. It was
together.
Like back-to-back kind of, I think it was January or February.
It's pretty quick. Less than half a year.
Yeah. And basically, we found we went to investment. We found Corner Ventures, who led that round. And Corner Ventures, the partner who joined the round, had some background with travel, and he got the point. And he said, "Yeah, I know travel is down, but it's going to come back." So that that makes sense what you're doing.
So you needed another. I mean, it was your vision. Then Eden said, "Okay." Then Michael said, "Okay, I'm joining this vision as well." And then the partner from Corner Ventures, like you had to bring together
Marvin from Corner Ventures.
Many people that will see the potential, like you see it, but still with head in the sky, but feet on the ground, that will understand the business opportunity behind it, and to really bring them all abroad in order to execute it.
Yeah. So a lot of people had to buy into that vision, which was a crazy vision. I don't know if it's a smart idea, but again, a lot of people had to believe that a team of 30-something people in Tel Aviv with 3 co-founders that have no experience in M&As can do 4 M&As.
Do you think that nowadays it would happen in the situation in the markets today? Or that the opportunity that the COVID brought and the extra money that were in the market, it was easier to pull?
I think that is a combination of circumstances because I'm sure that the fact that we didn't have an alternative or a very lucrative alternative to kind of growing the business definitely contributed to the fact that they went along with it. But if it can happen now, yeah, it can happen now.
I think that we speak a lot about investments in startups, etc., and the components of timing and of the right people and luck and so many things that needs to align in order to make the right move, and you never know it in advance. You know it only in retrospect if it was the right thing to do, etc. There are so many components that makes the risk very, very high, in this kind of deals, but also very unique and very interesting to go after and to see what evolves there. So September was the idea. And February, you got the investment from Corner Ventures and the first M&A. And you bought 4 companies in 8 months, something like that, right?
Yeah, I think the first M&A, like the term sheet of the first M&A was signed around February, something like that, and then the last deal was sealed in November. So and that was 4 companies, and we grew from 30 people to about 250 in that year.
So from COVID to firing people to strategy to go to M&As to buy 4 companies, everything happens so quickly. How do you find yourself as a CEO and a founder evolving in this process? And from 30 people, you now need to build a leadership team, and you now need to take care of those companies and help them grow. And you said from 30 people to 250 people, right? And later on, even more.
Yeah.
What do you do there? How do you help yourself to grow throughout this journey?
I think I'm kind of person that likes challenges, I guess. It wouldn't happen otherwise, because I'm the kind of person that when someone tells him you're not going to be able to do it, then I'm going to show you. And you know, it was like that from the beginning, because it was, think about raising a seed round for a company that sells bus tickets in Thailand or Vietnam or Bolivia. That people were looking at us saying, "What are you talking about?" And for me, it was kind of challenging. I guess I'm the kind of CEO that likes these kind of. I don't know if I like it.
You're addicted to it?
Maybe, I don't know. I guess I perform
good,
better than average in these like a stressful situations. And how do you handle it? I mean, we took a lot of advisors, and really great advisors, really great people that have been there and done a thing or two in their life, and kind of brought them on board to help us do this thing, and we tried to really kind of listen to what they're saying and learn from what their experience and get them involved, and I think we managed to that's how we managed to do it, because we brought, you know, an M&A advisor, we brought in a kind of a COO type advisor that helped us to kind of build the management. We took a lot of advice. That I think that's really important. And I think I told you that before in the conversation, that you get a lot of advice from I don't know if it was on record or not or already, but
I'll listen and then I'll know.
but I told you get a lot of advice, and
you need to choose which one to relate to, which one to embrace, which one is
exactly,
what's the right advice for. Maybe it's a good advice, but it's not a good advice for you. There's no fit, and this is your mechanism that you need to develop as a CEO and as a founder. To what do you listen, what you don't listen, and why. And this is the real work.
Yeah. So I think at that point I was at a point that I'm pretty open to listening, and kind of like really listening to what people say, and trying to do what they're saying.
This position of listening to others as a CEO, how it is for you?
It's complicated because you need to listen to people, because they know stuff that you don't.
They know stuff.
And yeah, they do, but they don't know what you know, right? So they know things, and they've done things that you have not done. But if you listen to everything that they tell you, you're not going to get anywhere, right? So you need to kind of cherry pick the advice and get half of the stuff that they tell you need to listen to, and half of the stuff you need to say to yourself, you're wrong. And it's hard.
And it goes back to what we said earlier, and what I emphasize on many podcasts that we have here, that as a founder, and especially as a CEO, but also in other positions, you need to develop constantly this inner ability of yourself to be to criticize, to be judgmental, to see how you respond to things, and how do you choose what you believe in, what to take, which advice, like your internal mechanism to get to know yourself very, very well, because this is the foundation to later on listen to other things and what can happen and what cannot happen. And also the things that and the reflections that you get from your team members, from your employees, the things that the spotlights that they put in you and tell you, okay, listen, maybe in this area we should do like that, or we should do like that, and the ability to listen, but then and to fine tune and to choose what's right for us and what's not right for us. And also to take the ownership and the responsibility of making the mistakes, because at the end, you're the owner also of the mistakes.
Yeah, you're the owner of the mistakes, and I think if you don't face up to it, that whatever happened is your responsibility, then you can't move forward. I mean, I think one of the things that are most important for me personally, and I think for other people as well, is to say, if we got it wrong, it was my fault, and if we got it right, it was, we did it together. and it's true, and in the end it all goes back to you. I mean, you can't control everything, right? COVID, it's not my I didn't do that, but it's my responsibility what happened there.
So I totally agree about the responsibility and the ownership of the choices and the decisions that we make. We had a discussion earlier about our ability to control things, right? When we prep for the podcast. And I want to emphasize it because exactly like you said, there is an outdoor reality, external reality. We cannot control in the reality. We can only control in the way that we behave and we respond and we act towards what happens. Our interpretation, our the way we react, our the things that we choose to say. This is what we can control on ourselves. And I think that the more we focus on the internal choice that we have, how to respond to things and how our attitude toward things, it will help us to manage in this uncertainty and in the things, the external things that happened. And I really hope that also this small fine-tune that we had earlier about control conversation will also, you took something together with you for later on, because at the end we have control only on the way that we respond to things. And it goes to all places, when we manage people, when in the relationship with the co-founders, our spouse in life, the relationship with the investors, etc., etc. So if I go back to 30,000 feet, so the first startup, then the second startup, which is the current one, and going through COVID and buying for companies and scaling from 30 employees to 400 nowadays. What's next? What's next for you?
So we have a vision. We want to digitize ground transportation. We want to be the booking.com of ground transportation, and we're in such a huge market, and we're a tiny fraction of it. And we want to be a big company, a big travel company in the world, and be the kind of top of mind for transportation, for travel transportation around the world. And we have so much more work to get there, but we will get there.
It's a huge vision, and it's also, as someone who traveled, not in past tense, who traveled a lot in the world, it's also very different if you go to, I don't know, US or Europe countries, or if you go, to the East or Latin America or to less developed countries in this manner of transportation. So it's a very, not just a business vision, but also a cultural based one, because people are behaving there in such a variety of behaviors towards those things. There's a lot of psychology, and how do you buy the tickets and where do you go? And if it's some places, it's also still, right, a piece of paper, right?
Yeah.
In that way, they still don't digitize it. So how do you address it? The psychology behind it?
So there's a thing that I like to say, and I say that a lot. And what we're doing is travel, right? Everything else is so hotels is staying, right? So there's a travel industry, but if you buy hotels, you're staying somewhere. Flights is kind of a commodity, and you kind of know what you're getting. It's very straightforward, and the part of the journey of the vacation that we take care of is the actual traveling, because you need to get from one place to another, and you need to get from one place to another to do something. Because in a vacation, unless you're going to Paris to a weekend in Paris, you travel. You go from place A to place B. Place B, you want to do something, like climb some mountain or take a selfie
Mhm.
somewhere, and then you continue to another place,
Mhm.
and that's the journey experience, the travel experience, and that's what we're taking care of, because that traveling is still super complicated, and it could be easier in Europe. Sometimes it's easier in Europe, sometimes it isn't. By the way, depends where
Mhm.
you are.
Mhm.
But in the rest of the world, it's like super stressful. It creates anxiety,
Mhm.
right? Travel anxiety is like is like a big problem, because
Mhm.
people don't go to certain places because they just don't know how the hell they get there, and they don't have the time or the energy to figure it out. And we're trying to solve that problem. And in the end, by the way, the vision that we have is we call our vision memorable journeys,
Mhm.
and it's
Mhm.
kind of
It's exactly what I wanted to say. That you're in a way you free from the anxiety and the headache, and you enable the experience actually, because
exactly
this is the journey.
this is the journey. Because if you had a really shitty experience in taking a bus and having a chicken, sleep in a seat with you, or a goat or whatever, that may be a memorable experience, probably not a good memorable experience. But you want to enable that, and make
Mhm.
it kind of a part of the real experience. And it's not about turning it into something different than it is. It's just about making it digital, simple, transparent. Choose the bus you want,
Mhm.
take the experience you want. Don't waste time in getting
And get closer to the unique moments of life. I'm going to share a very, very short story, but a meaningful one that I feel like. In last March, I was with my mom in Budapest for a weekend. And in a decision of, overnight, we wanted to take the a train to Kasha, to Košice. This is the city. It's like 4 hours a drive in the train. That my grandparents actually grew up with before the Holocaust. And it was, we went to the train station, we bought the tickets. Of course, we almost missed it. It wasn't in the language that we understand, etc., etc. But this experience enabled me one of the most touching and memorable experience that I had in my life, to go to see my grandparents' apartment before they were taken to the Holocaust, the real one, to walk there. I had many, many, many very, very unique experiences there with people that I've met. And at the end, this is it, like, to use those kind of digital platforms in order to enable us later on to touch life, brush with the great experiences of life.
Yeah.
So just a small story that I had. Noam, if we need to finish soon, so it's like, looking at your story from the guy who didn't grow up to be a founder,
Yeah.
you didn't have the package, or you thought that you didn't have the package. You go through life. You went to sales in the US. You met your founders in the MBA. You started the first startup. You understood that it's not the right fit, it's not the right market yet, you're too young, etc. You closed it, you opened a new one, changes in the founding team, bringing some, letting us go some, firing people, COVID, buying for companies, two amazing investors in your board, so many things that happens, and it's still like, like we say in Hebrew, "Zro netuya, yad netuya." It's only the beginning, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what will be, next, you don't know. If I'll ask you to, marker one thing that you take with you that really makes you feel fulfilled and passionate and enjoyable in this journey, because we talk about many, many complex situations, what will be this thing that nurtures you to continue in this?
So that's two things. Like, it maybe comes back to how this all started, and when I initially thought about what the hell I want to do in my life, I thought I want to do something meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, how do you do something meaningful? You want to be a doctor, or help people, or I don't know, change people, things in the world, and so on. And then at some point I kind of realized that we can do something meaningful by opening a business, and actually providing a job income to a lot of people, helping them feel that they're doing something significant, and it is something that is significant for me, that we managed to create something from zero, or have a business that people enjoy waking up in the morning and
Mm-hmm.
and working at and doing something, and that's the business itself doesn't, regardless of what it's doing. And then there's the other things of actually changing things in the actual world, which is crazy when you see it. When you go to a bus station in Bangkok and you see the huge sign of Want to Go, which is one of our brands, or Bookaway, just there saying, buy your tickets on Want to Go, and
Do you feel proud in
Yeah.
this moment?
yeah, and seeing people just not paid by us going on TikTok and saying buy your ticket on Bookaway because it really works, and
That's an impact.
that's an impact. And
It's exciting.
I say, wow, I'm changing stuff, and we make an impact in different places in the world. So this is the customer side, but also the operator side, the bus company, the shuttle company. We increase their businesses. Like we have companies that through working with us have expanded their business, bought new vans, opened up new routes, got like much more tours, much more customers than they used to have before. You contribute. It changes. You move the needle in the world.
Do you from time to time pause to breathe it in and truly feel it that you changed things and moved the needle for people and businesses?
Yeah, when I need to.
Only when you need to.
When I need to, because a lot of times you go through different difficult situations, and you have to pause and remind yourself that you've done something great already, and you are successful in some way, even though you had a shitty day.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to pause sometimes and think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it sums it up, like how you feel like that and like this. And Noam, I had a really, really great time talking to you today. Thank you for sharing and for being authentic and open about all these roller coaster experiences that you've gone through before and during our conversation. For listeners who are interested in the platform or want to work with you, etc., where can they find you?
LinkedIn. If you need anything specific, just connect with me, but write why you're connecting with me. Otherwise, I assume you want to sell me something. And I'm on Twitter, but also.
Great. Thank you so much for joining me today. To our lovely listeners, we're going to hit pause until the next episode. That's also something I say to the entrepreneurs in my clinic in between sessions. The Human Founder podcast can be found on all leading podcast platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and Podbean. You're invited to subscribe and follow us and to be the first to hear new episodes. If you enjoyed listening, I would really appreciate it if you share the podcast with people who you think would derive value from it. Thanks to the amazing studios at Google for Startups that allow me to record all this content in here. Feel free to visit my website at galiblochliran.com and leave your details there if you wish to be updated and learn more about the mental aspects of the entrepreneurial journey. Let's hit pause. Till next time. Thanks, Noam.
Thank you.
The Human Founder Podcast by Gali Bloch-Liran.